So I was really excited about this topic, building a psychedelic village, because in this time of so much loneliness and so much division and divisiveness, never more have we needed connection, community, all of the things that we all know. And yet the thought around how do we build that? How do we include folks who maybe aren't included in other communities or who might be challenging to include in our communities? What are the different elements of a village? Who are the different people that fill a village? My work is in sexuality and psychedelics, and so the communities that I organize are focused on that aspect of life, but that is a huge element in all of this. And how can we, kind of be pillars and do the work that we want to do and are drawn to, but then also join together as one community and village. So I'm going to allow everyone to just take a couple minutes to introduce yourselves and maybe speak to what does building a village mean to you, and what is a psychedelic village in general?
Thank you so much for that introduction and for joining us this Easter Sunday. My name is Reverend Lisa Q. Fetterman, and I come from psychedelics from a suicidality background. I'm a crisis counselor, and I'm head of the board of Crisis Text Line. We take care of all of the suicide crisis texts for the United States, thank you, the UK, and Ireland. So often, suicide comes from a really good place of one of our protectors desperately trying to rescue us. And I love that psychedelics, a lot of the time, lead us to that root cause and help us meet ourselves more deeply and honor our protectors so that they can lay down their spears. So, the psychedelic village. The great news is that the map is already in front of us. Again, the mycelium, right? How it grows, where it grows from, the patterns. How we scaled Crisis Text Line is that we have volunteers. We're the largest volunteer network for any nonprofit organization that I know. And how we do is that we train our crisis counselors who don't necessarily have a therapeutic background, but we also have one licensed therapist go with a cohort as they do their nightly or daily crisis management. And that is how also we grow our psychedelics community. I'm part of a consortium of ministers where we get active supervision from an elder in the community who's done it for 20, 30 years. Also doctors and nurses. And as you know from doing psychedelics, there's so many different ways of knowing. And it is imperative in our work to get them all in, whether it is the medical model, boo, I know, and also the shamanistic model. It all matters, and we're here to listen.
Wow, yeah. Hi, I'm Steven. First time really talking, so bear with me. Building a community center, I feel like it's just finding inclusion and finding spaces we can be at service to one another. And I like what you said about congregating in spaces. We need more like that. I represent Obsidian Healing Camp and Zydor here. Obsidian Healing Camp just opened in West Oakland, and that's what we look for. We want a space where we can congregate with no alcohol, no drugs, no tempt to want to do that, because we're going to seek community. We want to be around community, and the watering hole seems to be the only place to find that. And for some of us, we're going to have a drink. We're going to do those things. So we want to have a space where we can lift each other up and build each other up. And what are you good at? And how can you teach that? And how can we showcase everyone's abilities? Because we're all very powerful in some way, and just recognizing the power in each other and really just speaking on it and amplifying it, I think, is the best way to lift the community up with each other. And when we are weak and we need to fall, you want a strong community around you to lean on. So we can't always be the strongest people in the room sometimes. So a strong community really helps us, take the weight off each other's shoulders. And so it's important to build each other up and get to a point like that.
Hi, everybody. Oh, pardon me. Hello, everybody. My name is Benjamin Manton. I have a smart shop and a church in North Beach of San Francisco that we've started in 2022. And in North Beach, there's a very interesting prototype for mental health and addiction treatment. If you haven't been to North Beach, it's the home to many bars and home to many SRO, single room occupancy hotels that for artists are some of the only accessible points to live. And because of that, it's become this kind of vortex for people and radical acceptance and meeting people where they are. So our church is essentially about the intersection of art and mental health and spirituality through access to psilocybin. But I think the model in North Beach can really be exported anywhere, where you're really just accepting people and being open about the fact that we're all crazy, and just kind of, if you can acknowledge that to other people, the level of acceptance that you get and the guidance that you get through difficult spaces is radically different than if we all pretend like everything's okay. I think the worst thing you can do is fake it until you make it. So that's kind of what I'm all about.
I'm Dave Hodges, the founder of the Church of Ambrosia in Zydor. We are probably the largest psychedelic community, maybe even in the world. We just hit a little over 125,000 members, and you don't count as a member unless you physically come in and join, so that's 125,000 people that have come through to get cannabis, mushrooms, or DMT from us. The importance of community, there's multiple levels of community. We look at ourselves as one giant community, even though many of the members have never met each other. Prior to the pandemic, we really focused on a weekly gathering, and that was really nice because it gave people a space to get together and talk to each other, which is really important. But just also knowing that there's a larger group of people that share at least the value of that we believe these are important tools that help us access ourselves. It provides a lot for a lot of people. I think for me, the biggest part of community and what I really hope happens if something ever bad happens to me, but is people can get together and try to stop things. The likelihood that at some point I might end up in federal prison is pretty high. That's something I live with on a daily basis. And I like to think those 125,000 people will try to help us or help me when I hopefully don't get there. But us all coming together and having shared values and being able to talk about the work that we do, it really is some of the most important parts of the psychedelic experience. That doesn't necessarily mean that 125,000 people need to gather and all talk about it, but that individuals in a part of our greater community have the opportunity to have these discussions with people that are a part of it, but even their friends. And the more spaces that we can have where people can get together and actually have these shared experiences, the better. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the church grows and how more churches come, because to me, we are all one community. And whether or not, it's any of the people who have a church here, we all believe in the same thing, that these are very powerful tools to help us access our soul. And once we understand we have a soul and we can understand why we're here and what we're supposed to do, the world will be a better place.
Yeah, wonderful to hear from each of you. I'd like to continue kind of riffing on this idea of the village and thinking about the different roles that one plays in the village. Each of us on this stage is, a sort of leader of a community in some ways, and yet also plays myriad roles, brings together people in community gatherings, but also our vendors and also our hoodlums and people who are also living on the edge in certain ways. And so I'm curious to hear about how you see this kind of village motif playing out in your communities.
Our community needs leaders. And for our church, Congregation of Sacred Practices, we create ministers and leaders. We don't sell any medicine. We train therapists and counselors and folks who are generally healers to learn how to become medicine holders. And we have to step into our power, because one of the things, I think it was Kylia Taylor that said, was that if you want to become a medicine holder, you hold 110% of that responsibility. And that means that you need to honor and own your power. You can't say, like, I'm in this situation. You learn what's necessary and you serve the people. And I provide a great access way to begin with Crisis Text Line. It's free to join us as a volunteer, and we give you over $2,000 worth of mental health training to get started. And that's also one of the prerequisites to becoming one of these, like, clinical hours is one of the prerequisites to becoming a minister. So I'm here shouting out to folks who are leaders and who believe that they want to carry the medicine. This is not the only way to go, of course, but we're trying to make a more systemized way where you can meet other leaders inside of the community and get that started.
Yeah, I like that. We definitely need to, build up our leaders and, like MySpace. Let's speak on MySpace, Obsidian Healing Camp. But what we're trying to do, just build a canvas for people to come share their works, because we're all very powerful at something, and just helping each other figure out what that is and pour into that and give the appreciation for that. We ultimately just think everyone has that capability inside of them, and none of us are really that guy there. It's just everybody. And I do consider myself a leader in my community in a lot of ways. I do help. I take a lot of pride in helping my brethren feed their families and find ways for them to do that. I've had my hands in a lot of different businesses for a lot of years now, and never really been on a stage or been very loud or vocal about it. But that would help me sleep at night, knowing that, I did actually directly help this community, this family. So we need to start moving that way and share, like, those are the accolades you want. Like, who have you helped today? Like, how many people got off alcohol because of you? Or things like that. Those are the badges of honor we should wear, and maybe not the cool car you might have or what designer bag you have. Let's, who did you feed today? Like, so that's what I believe we need more of in the community.
So at Professor Siegel's and our Smart Shop, we have, for lack of a better word, an open door policy. But we're essentially a place where people can come with no desire to purchase anything or even have a conversation. I feel like there's not enough spaces in the city of San Francisco, and probably the world, I would assume, but for people who are high and want to be around people, but they don't want to interact with people. They just want to have that kind of space held and know that it's okay to do whatever they need to do. North Beach, again, to go back to that specific case, is a place, because of the SROs and the general culture of the neighborhood, a place where a lot of drug dealer apprentices or drug grower apprentices kind of end up in between things. And so kind of creating a space where people that are kind of surfing the underground can feel safe in whatever kind of form they are.
I think when we're talking about roles, there's a lot of different roles to play in what we're doing. My role is to make sure that people have sacrament, but also be the one that has to deal with the court case. Leadership is very important, but it's also activating people so that they can become leaders within their own community and they can help others. Once you've had the experiences, then you're somewhat qualified, but the more experiences that you've had, the more you can be able to help others have those experiences safely. But as we build the psychedelic village, and there's multiple psychedelic villages, and there's even psychedelic villages on the other side, but I won't get that weird right now. But definitely when you go into these deep doses, you'll find other people and other ancestors and entities that are all also part of our overall village that is trying to bring not only the people in this world, but the people in the next world and the other things in the next world together. But it is definitely important for people to find their role, and everybody will have a different role. To me, that's actually the big benefit of doing the higher dose work with psilocybin, of actually breaking through and understanding why you're here and what you're supposed to do, and from that point you can determine what your role is in a community.
Yeah, well said. I'm curious about this is not a talk on this, and I'm sure you all have talked about this plenty in other spaces, but kind of the idea of bringing people into community in spaces that are taboo and that are illegal, or are working on the fringes of society. How do we create safety so that people can feel like they're a part of our communities, and also address the fact that we're working in these fringe places and that we're not able to necessarily, maybe we can take the fall for them, or you can take the fall for your community, but it's still inviting in a level of discomfort within the structure that we're in. And maybe you two at the end, I know are more in the serving.
More in the line of fire?
Exactly, and I'd love to maybe just start there and come backwards if that's all right.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's a crazy time to be alive to begin with. The legal landscape and the thing that's happening to people throughout the country for many different reasons, and the new administration really puts us in an extra precarious position. But without that, people can't have safe access to these tools. And to me, that's one of the most important things that we're doing, is making sure that people have the access and they know how to use them. And then everything else comes out of that.
I think for me, the part I try to contribute to the psychedelic movement is trying to kind of keep the language more dry and bohemian, versus like things can get real, like, I don't know how to describe it, but poetic, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it could be a real turnoff to people that need to have access to psychedelics, but are just turned off by like the general approach that this average mean of the psychedelic movement can give off to people. So kind of just, letting people understand that like personal use is ceremonial use, is recreational use, and that however you want to approach it, like if you have stuff that you need to deal with and you're not dealing with it, like these things can help you access that. Or if you're feeling alienated in a world of alienating problems, you can find access to that oceanic effect that, we're all one, the base of monotheism. Like, it's not a thing, it's a the thing. So just trying to be direct with language with people, I think, is really important, and trying to make it accessible to people.
Yeah. I feel with legality, it's always ever changing and evolving, and the more people that go one side or the other, it has a direct effect. Our collective, Obsidian Collective, my brethren here is the founder of Front. We're environmental activists, Native American brothers, so we've been at war with the legal system just our whole conception, our entire existence. So to me, it's just another day dealing with that, whatever that looks like. So the more people that are aware of the fight and willing to speak up as well, for brothers like Dave and other brethren that are, under the fire, legalities change that way when we speak up and we stand on that and we say what we want and what we need, and for us it's fighting for the planet, and a lot of the times it's like, that's illegal what you're doing, and we're like, well, we're going to do it anyways because the planet's going to die, and there's no recourse. They have way more money than us. It's, right now it's the two smallest demographics in America are at war with each other. It's the billionaires and the Native American population. And it's a silent war that's going on, and it's, we're constantly at the losing end of the fight. And that's where Obsidian Healing Camp came about, to heal my brothers, like, who are coming back from these fights, who are pepper sprayed and thrown in dog cages and rubber bullets shot at them. And I've seen them come back fucked up. They're not the same. And that's why we started the Healing Camp. We have a 1/4 acre in West Oakland where we bring frontliners to seek refuge and do yoga, smoke weed, take some mushrooms. Like, we have a gym, a library, full amenities, a wider range of amenities for the community. Gym, library, recording studio, tea with fresh alkaline water. We bring alkaline water from the Red Rock Springs because we need a place to. Native Americans have always had war camps, different things, but this is a healing camp because we need to heal our brothers and sisters like Dave and people fighting for the earth and these different rights that we need to have and protect and stand on, because we do need access to this medicine. We have to have it. And we cannot allow them to tell us we're not allowed to have that. And so just like protecting the land, there's some hard lines you have to stand on, and this is one of them. So.
Ram Dass always said, the best thing that you could do for me is to heal yourself, and the best thing that I could do for you is heal myself. And that's so true personally for me about building the psychedelic village and having more folks come in. Can you repeat now? What was the just the question? Yeah.
Something around how does it feel to bring people into your community when we're working on the fringes?
When we're working on the fringes, okay, that's right. Okay, one of the big things is that if you are adjacent to privilege or you have any kind of power, I encourage people to know that this is a very long game and to reach consistency and to be completely out of the closet as much as you can when it comes to psychedelics. My background is that before the crisis counseling is that I was in business. I was Forbes, the God and Inc. 30 Under 30. You probably saw me on Shark Tank. Like, I did all yeah, I know, right, funsies? Let's go. I invented a cooking device, the home sous vide. It's a precise temperature cooking tool that every single top chef in the world uses. Wacky, and I wrote 2 international best-selling books on the subject. Like, I have the power, I have the limelight, and then overnight I changed it to, hello, try psychedelics. and if you feel anchored in safety and in power, that's what I encourage folks to do, to bring more people in. Like, if people see you healed, if people see that you are talking about psychedelics, it's not safe for everybody to not code switch in situations. But if it is safe for you, or you're getting to a place where you feel that kind of safety, go ahead and have a consistent message and be out there. Like, anybody can tap me on the shoulder on the street and I'll be like, hello, scholoscopy. Let's go.
Yeah, being out there is so beautiful and important. So the last talk in here was about neuroplasticity in children and psychedelics, moving us into neuroplasticity. And it made me think of the line, "It takes a village to raise a child." And so I kind of want to throw out, it takes a psychedelic village to raise a fill in the blank.
I think it's to raise somebody that understands why they're here. That again is what I focus on a lot with this work, is we all have souls, and understanding what our soul is and why we came here and what we're supposed to do are some of the most important things. And if we can get to a point in this world where these breakthrough doses and this deep work is a point of passage, we would have a much different world and a much better place.
It takes a psychedelic village to bring into view the great consciousness. If you've done psychedelics, you maybe have brushes with it or know of it. And I think it's something like Christians say about bringing heaven on earth. It is when we get access to the great consciousness that we are completely fully healed, and it's all we need. Some folks call it God and spirit, and it will take us all to be able to access the great consciousness because it's bigger than our individual consciousness.
I like what Dave said, the rites of passage, because in today's society, you're 21, it's like go to the bar. You did it, you're a man, go get drunk now, go make terrible decisions while you're still very young. In almost tribal communities all over the world, when you reached an age, you went and found the access of the entheogen that was provided to you by the Most High, by the earth. She gave you something. Whether it was ayahuasca, peyote, it could have been any beautiful medicine, and all of it was connecting with the earth again. And we have such a disconnect from her because, we come of age and we just get drunk and disassociate instead of like taking her and having that connection with her and building our adulthood on that fundamental foundation and not this over-sexualized drug in the club, blah, 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 which I think is cool. We need that, but it shouldn't be the only place we can be.
I love that you brought in ritual because isn't it fascinating in American culture, after 21, where do all our rituals go? Like we had 16, 13, obviously the indigenous cultures know there's way more ritual beyond that. But at a certain point, we give our bodies to capitalism and ritual stops. And so as a psychedelic village, the way we hold psychedelics, the more ritual that's involved, the more people will be able to ascend and connect with their bodies and connect with their spirit. So thank you so much for bringing that in. And it's such a stark contrast between indigenous culture and the rituals you hold as a culture versus like what happened to us as a mass culture.
Also being here to receive people when they come back from their journeys to it's our job as a psychedelic village to kind of change consensus reality based on all of our experiences to kind of try and bend our evolution as a culture or a species to the place that we, are getting this information from or where we want to go, and also just literally holding the space for people to come back and try and explain what they experienced, and then when they realize it's ineffable, to give them that look in the eye that's like, yeah, I know, I get it.
Yeah, and just, a little back on the coming of age rituals, beyond where we have society right now, we're telling them hey, you turn 21, go get drunk at the bars. You get out of high school and then you're supposed to figure out instantly what you want to do for the rest of your life somehow. How does that make any sense? You graduated and now it's off to college if you're following what society tells us we're supposed to do. But how do you know what major to pick? How do you expect any 18-year-old to know what they're supposed to do for the rest of their life? You can say that about any 25-year-old, any 30-year-old, any 50-year-old. Many people don't ever figure it out. And these tools are a very powerful way for us to get in touch with what we really are and what we came here to do. And there's many traditions, Native American, South American, and pretty much every tradition in the world that does psychedelics. This is part of a understanding what you're supposed to do. We don't have that. We say, oh, you're 18, okay, well now you can go die for us, and in a couple years you can go get drunk at the bar. What? We really need, as the way to change society is for us all to know why we're here and what we're supposed to do. And if you do, then you can make a decision of what you're going to do for the rest of your life and what college major you want to have and where you should even focus. Maybe you don't need to go to college. Maybe you need to go work with homeless people and help them. But our current traditions in society don't really exist. They're in this modern society. There is no coming of age tradition that helps you understand who you are and what you're here for.
It takes a psychedelic village to witness each other, to provide ritual, and to walk each other home.
So in these psychedelic villages that you all are building, I'm curious, what are the rites of passage, or what would you see as being something that you would really encourage, or that feels kind of, tell me about that.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes. Yeah. Obsidian Healing Camp. Where if you're offering anything free to the community that's positive, we want you to do it there. We're not trying to charge people to do anything that's trying to give back to the community. If it's something that's going to generate money for you, we ask for 30% back to the house to keep it going. But we're trying to just, give a platform and a space for that kind of conversation, because we need community building platform. We need spaces to congregate, places to talk, to organize. Like, there's a lot of fights out there, and we got to get active. We got to be ready, because this world is not, it's going down fast, And I myself has 2 sons, and I refuse to leave this world. My soul won't leave right. I'm going to haunt the White House. I'm going to be stuck here. You know what I mean? I need to do everything I can do to pass over, if there is a passing over. And that means, making sure I see a shift in this planet, in this consciousness, see some love, a resurgency, and maybe we can go to the other side, whatever that looks like. But I'll be stuck in rotation if I were to die tomorrow. I already know that, because there's still so much work that needs to be done here. So let's activate.
I think that there's the ideal future versus what is safe right now. Because what I'm about to say is not something I would ever personally admit to doing, but my child, when he becomes of age, I want him to go deep and understand why he's here before moving forward. Amen. So it's, what is that age? And right now, if you look at what society considers the standard, it's 21. But there was points in history that many of people barely lived past 21. Yes. So what is that appropriate age? I'm not saying I necessarily have the answer, but from my perspective, the best thing that you can do is early on in life know why you're here and what you're supposed to do, and understand that you have a soul that came here to do something. So is that age 13? Is that age 18? Is that age 21? I don't think it's 21. I will, when my child's 18, for sure, when the law won't punish me for it, if he hasn't had an experience before then, he will definitely have an experience, or at least you can't force anybody to do this work. That's a very important thing of all of this, is we can't go just forcibly dosing people. They have to understand what it is and walk into this work. Yes. But providing the opportunity so you can do that, and the context so people know, like, hey, if you want to know why you're here and what you're supposed to do, there's a way to do it, and here's the tool.
Yes, I like that.
I think after people get comfortable tripping in their living room, generally I encourage people, San Francisco's Golden Gate Park is like its own rite of passage. Like if you eat 3.5 grams on Hippie Hill and walk to the ocean, for me you become a San Franciscan at that point.
What about if you take some LSD and get stuck in the botanical garden?
It can be engrossing for sure.
Yeah, there's some dangers there, but not real dangers. Just loss of time.
Those are rites of passage.
Yeah, I'm actually cultivating some peyote for my sons. I didn't have the access of it myself because it's been overtaken, and I don't even feel right. Even if I had access now, I feel like I'd have to do some more work first. So I am cultivating some for my son and the future generation that I'll never be able to have, but I just want to know that they have that option. And like Dave said, you can't force anyone to wake up. It's like, how do you like when someone's like, hey, get up, we got shit to do? Like, nobody likes that, but we can make coffee and we can get the food cooking. So it's more appealing to wake up, it makes you want to get going, but nobody wants to be woken up. okay, it's time to get up, but you put the blanket over your head, but I can go start the coffee, and you'll smell it, and be like, maybe I should get up now, maybe I should get going.
I think a thorough line through what we're all going to say about the thresholds that we go through, like what we determine in our psychedelic community, is taking the medicine. Take the medicine and take it often. Being with the medicine, that is the threshold. That is like the steps you walk up, ultimately. And more practically, in psychedelic ministry, when you become a psychedelic minister, you do trade a few times, and we trade in triads. We trade as one person is the minister, one person is the observer, and one person is the loner. They loan their bodies to help the minister learn. And we do that quite a few times with different medicines in order to learn. And that I consider a passage for my community. And even more practically with Crisis Text Line, it's when you complete your 200 hours of service. We send you a hoodie. But those are the very stark lines in the sand. When in my village we talk about leadership and when you can hold the mantle. But moreover, the real deal is take medicine and take it often.
Well, I think one of just as you were speaking, it kind of came to me, one of the things that we really need to do is help people with the dialogue, understanding, these are tools, and when and where to use them, the context around it. And I know you deal with a lot of suicide. To me, this is actually a really touchy subject for a lot of people, but psychedelics don't necessarily cause suicide. And in fact, what we found with the deep work is they can be the cure to suicide. Suicide and depression and a lot of these things that science is saying, well, hey, mushrooms are great for, they're all problems with you not understanding who you are and why you came here and what you need to go through. And these tools can be a great way to do that. But if you're having, I often say, if somebody is really suicidal and I can get my hands on them, I'm going to kill them with mushrooms. They'll take a very large dose. They'll acknowledge at some point in the dose that they're dead. And that can be where a lot of people have had bad trips, because if you're not ready to die and you acknowledge you're dead, you might freak out. If you're ready to die or you feel like you want to die and we can take you there, all of a sudden you'll learn, wait, it doesn't just stop. And there's a reason I went through this. But again, it's context, because should you, if you're feeling suicidal, take some mushrooms and go to a music concert? Probably not. But with the right person to work you through it and the right dose to get you to the right place, it can be the cure, where now you understand, I can't die, because if I die, the first thing that I'm going to have to deal with is my soul on the other side, and dying isn't the end of it. Suicide is generally, and this is also speaking from personal experience, I've dealt with it multiple times in my life, you don't want to be here anymore. And you think, oh, if I do this, then it just ends and it's over. And once you understand, no, it's not over. There is something over there. And the first thing that you're going to encounter is your soul that came here to do something. But if you go and kill yourself, now you don't get that thing done, and it's my belief you're going to have to relive that lesson again. So you're going to come back into another life, into another situation, where until you get through what you had to learn and go through in this existence, you're going to have the same problems.
Dave, thank you for bringing up that context matters with taking medicine and taking it often. Take medicine in community. And take it often in community.
Yeah, well, definitely around people who know.
That's right.
That's
that have been there before in the landscape.
Yeah, and set and setting is one of the most important things. People, we say that a lot in psychedelics, but set is mindset, setting is environment. So if you're trying to have a good time, then you want a good mindset and you want to go to a good environment. if you're not in a good mindset, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do psychedelics. It means that you should be very careful and you should do it with a lot of intent. You know, if there is something that is eating at you so deeply that your whole life is focused around it and you want an answer, there is a way to go get it. You just have to have the right setting for that one. Your mindset is not going to be in a good place, but you know that. So you know going into the work, that's what you're going to focus on, and the setting needs to be an environment where you got somebody to take care of you, you know that you're going to be safe, and that the person who's helping you with it knows what to do if there's any problems.
I think we might be reaching the end of time, although I don't know who's keeping it. Maybe me. You look like you know something. No. One thing that's coming to me now is the idea of healing in community and with one another, and that so much of our issues are that we feel like we're alone and that we're bad and we're wrong. And when we can bring our healing forth into community spaces, where we can be seen and we can be mirrored and we can be reflected on and we can be loved and cared for. So much healing just happens in coming together, and in not separating and segregating ourselves or each other for being bad and wrong. So I think I have one more question I'd love to ask, but I also want to kind of end on a positive note, so let me dip down. And I feel like I've never quite heard this answered in a way that was satisfactory to me, so apologies for trying to get my needs met right now. In the sex-positive space, in all of our communities, there's folks who just feel and just don't seem like they're catching the vibe or feel like they're, I don't know, distasteful characters is so judgy and it's against everything that I just said, but there's a feeling like sometimes everybody's having a good time and then one guy is not, or everyone really like gets it and is flowing and vibing and dancing, and then there's just a little bit of a mismatch or whatever. And I'm not necessarily just talking about restorative justice if things go wrong, but how do we create spaces where people really do feel invited, but also like there's consent when you don't want to vibe with somebody, or people can show up as themselves, but also be invited in ways that feel like everybody's accepting. Or please tell me if this question feels like it's kind of flowing into something that works out. But yeah.
One of my favorite sex shamans that's from Berkeley, who has passed, Frank Moore. He had a very great policy of just being very boring for the opening of his rituals. He's like, you can pretty much bore all the perverts out of a room, you know? If you start out, because he would do some really intense, body contact stuff, and he would always just start off with a very boring conversation, and he communicated with a stick attached to his head and a Ouija board because he was nonverbal. So those conversations took a really long time. And so we can't all recreate that, but I think you can kind of find a way to generate energy that is just anti-negative person energy right off the bat to kind of let them know. And then also, of course, just clear communication if they've passed that filter, and you just got to duct tape them to a tree or something at that point.
I think there's really, everybody wants to be as inclusive as possible, but not everybody needs to be in every community. So there is a responsibility for whoever is holding the event of any kind to make sure that the right people are there. Mm-hmm. If you're talking about sex and psychedelics, it's actually even more important because when you're on psychedelics, you don't necessarily have consent, right? So what I worry about a lot is ceremony holders, and things can. I once had a woman I was doing a high dose with who, during the dose, decided to stop the audio recording and go after me. And this was a good friend of mine, and everything's okay, but I was able to have the wherewithal to say, no, we can't do this right now because you're not consenting. This is, I know you're saying no, I'm consenting right now, Dave, but it's then after the fact, did they actually consent and how are they going to feel about it? So there's a huge responsibility, and that's in a very small space of two people. But if I was the wrong person, I could have done anything I wanted to do with somebody that's on psychedelics. So I think when you look at it, especially combining sex and psychedelics, there's a whole nother extra level, because if you're talking about just a sex party, again, you still need to have somebody who, and gatekeeping doesn't feel like the right word, but at some level you need to make sure that there is a gate so that the bad people don't come in. And the more intimate and more private the space, the more important that is. So, where there is a space for everybody and everybody needs to be included in many things at many levels, there's also spaces where you need to make sure that you don't have the bad people there. And, not to say that somebody who might be a bad person in that space doesn't deserve to do deep work to understand who they are and what they are, and that might change a lot of things about them. But when you're talking about these environments where people are vulnerable, and groups of these vulnerable people, whether it be, again, a sex party or a psychedelic party, there is a huge responsibility of the person putting the event or putting the activity together to make sure that those people that shouldn't be there aren't there.
And to your question about like not even going to the restorative justice route, it's not that bad. What happens when someone is just like fucking annoying? Just like, shut up, Bob. I'm trying to get in there. And you're in a group ceremony. A lot of the times is the first part of the question is like, you're in relationship. We always say that everything that was broken in relationship can only be healed in relationship. And for folks that are just like kind of like harshing the vibe, I oftentimes will be like, well, those are my tormentors. Like they are teaching me something, they're definitely reflecting something back at me that I don't like about myself, and I'll start from that square. And moreover, if you're a psychedelic leader, you can hold the leader of the space accountable and go to them. And if still that doesn't work, create your own community, baby.
I think as long as the space is very like letting you know, like, hey, this is a place for inclusion, this is a place for understanding each other. We're not all going to understand each other the moment we get in a room. Because like you said, come as you are. I think that comes with time of us being in the room and noticing our similarities more than our differences a lot of the times. And yeah, it's just like us being in a room, and as long as we know coming in, like, and you give that consent, like, yeah, this is a safe space, we're here to include everybody. So somebody that doesn't vibe with that, or they won't find themselves there, and if they are, we can definitely ask them to leave. But it's like a lot of people are trying to figure out those lines and what it looks like to love each other and to be in the same room together. It's a lot of it is alien for a lot of us in the different communities. It's like, two polar opposite ends of two different communities. When they come in the same room, they think about only the things they don't have in common because of what society and the media has been telling them. And when you actually have conversation, you get to know each other and break bread with each other, you find out like you fall in love with these people, whoever it is. It could be anyone from anywhere. You get two of them in a room and they work long enough together by each other's side, they're friends. And that's the real innate human nature that we do actually have. We need to just kind of find a way to get back to that space, I feel like.
All right. Thank you all so much. Wait, I'm going to ask one last thing, which is just any really one-sentence advice for building psychedelic villages. I'm sure many of us in the audience are building our own, or collectively we're building one together. That's why we're here. So just any little last advice that you could share.
Try to look everyone in the eye as much as you can in the same way that you would when you try to make a kid smile. It'll usually kind of come off really well.
We can do snaps also if you want.
I think for me the biggest thing is trying to understand people. Try to put yourself in their shoes, because we all live in our own little worlds, and what might seem weird to you might be totally normal to them. But if you put yourself in their shoes, you can really understand where they're coming from and where they're at.
Use my last thing. Just shamelessly plug Obsidian Healing Camp. Come on down and see what we're building a community center looks like, because we've been putting in that work. We just opened last month, and come check it out. Come pour your talents in. Come bring your works, whatever it is. We want to see it. We want to showcase it. Let's build together. Let's go.
Do your own work, and if it's possible and accessible, do your own work out loud. Let people see how you got to that answer. My God, please, if it's accessible. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Have a great Easter. Happy 420.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Find everybody? Oh, if you want to do one last thing, do you have an Instagram? Do you have a website? Do you have a thing? How can we all find each other? I think it's probably on the website, but we can do it.
Yeah, Church of Ambrosia, ambrosia.church, or you can find me on Instagram at Dave Hemp, or Dave Hemp 420. They killed my last Instagram, or come visit us at Zydor. It's right down the street. I'm sure many of you are members. If you aren't, you got to go check it out.
You can find us online at sfsmartshop.com, and then also in physical world at 1351 Grant Avenue in North Beach, on that kind of main corridor of bars and galleries there.
Awesome. Yeah, you can find us at Obsidian Healing Camp on IG, Instagram, and Obsidian Collective on Instagram as well. Follow Mike Ozine, my brethren, as well. A lot of his works is going on through Obsidian too. We're located at 1200 24th Street in West Oakland, quarter acre. Come vibe up. Hope to see you soon.
Okay, 4 websites. My own personal website, plantminister.com, crisistextline.com, congregationforsacredpractices.org, leadembodied.com.
Amazing. Hey, and we're at sexandpsychedelics.com. It's real easy, and you'll find all of our socials there. Thank you.
Oh.